Welcome to the Designing Hollywood podcast in association with the John Campea Show. I am your host, Robert Meyer Burnett. The Designing Hollywood podcast show is dedicated to all things movies, the movie industry, and its talented professionals. From directors, producers, writers, cinematographers, and of course, costume designers. Designing Hollywood covers some of the most celebrated professionals in the motion picture industry. The show explores the artistry, the craftsmanship, and the stories that bring our favorite motion pictures to life.
Hi, I'm Gilbert Musali, the new president and CEO of Western Costume, welcoming Designing Hollywood back to Western. This is our men's tailor shop, where we're custom making clothes all the time, alterations. This is our women's custom made. We can make anything you guys need us to make, alter anything. We can deck out a full army if you want in our military department. Thank you, Designing Hollywood, for coming in to see Western Costume. Hope to see you soon.
Today, we are honored to have on the show acclaimed Danish cinematographer Dan Laustsen, who is celebrated for his breathtaking visual storytelling and masterful command of light and shadow. Laustsen's work has defined the visual language of films such as The Shape of Water, which earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Cinematography, Crimson Peak, and Nightmare Alley. With a career spanning more than 4 decades, Laustsen has established himself as one of the most sought-after cinematographers in contemporary cinema. He is best known for his long-standing collaboration with director Guillermo del Toro, who he crafted the rich Gothic visuals of Crimson Peak and the noir-infused Nightmare Alley. His evocative imagery and command of atmosphere have become hallmarks of del Toro's visual language. Beyond his work in fantasy and horror, Laustsen is also celebrated for his stylish, kinetic cinematography on the John Wick franchise, John Wick Chapter 2, Chapter 3 Parabellum, and Chapter 4, where his innovative lighting, composition, and color design redefined the look of the modern action film. Throughout his prolific career, Dan Laustsen has lensed over 40 feature films across Europe and Hollywood. In his newest collaboration with del Toro, Frankenstein, Laustsen brings his signature Gothic realism and emotional intensity to reimagine Mary Shelley's timeless story for a new generation. His work continues to define cinematic artistry through light, texture, and human emotion. In this episode, we're diving into his process, his collaborations, and the art of visual storytelling that continue to inspire filmmakers and audiences around the world. Without further ado, please welcome Dan Laustsen to the Designing Hollywood show. Dan, welcome, and it's such an honor to have you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be back here because I've been here before and that was fun, and I thought this is going to be fantastic again.
Well, I hope so. I myself, I've been fascinated by the Danish film industry since I saw Element of Crime back in 1984 at the Seattle International Film Festival. And I was curious, obviously in America, we had the Dogma 95 movement coming out of what Lars von Trier was doing. What was it like for you to grow up in Denmark, and what were some of your influences and to become a cinematographer in Denmark at the time? What was the film industry like and how did you get started?
It's a very weird story because I get started, I'm educated as a fashion photographer when I was very young. And I didn't like to do that when I was educating. So I want to do something else. And I was like, let me be a National Geographic documentary still photographer.
Wow, okay.
And, when you're living in Denmark, it's very difficult. So my big sister, she saw advertising in the newspapers for the Danish Film School and said they was looking for students. They were not looking for students, but if you want to apply, you have to do that. And she said, what about that? And I said, it's not, I don't know anything about movie making. I don't care. It's not my world.
Right.
And, as big sisters are very insisting, said, don't be like that, little brother. Just give it a try. And, I didn't know anything about it, so I just applied to the film school. Of course, I have some pretty nice pictures, high standard. So I sent them in. And I got for interview, like, what is this? So I went to the film school, and there was like a lot of professors and stuff like that. And I was like 20 years old. And of course I was pretty nervous because I didn't knew anything about movie making.
Wow.
And then I got an interview. We talked about art. We talked about compositions. We talked about a lot of stuff. And one of the guys said, so who is your influences as a cinematographer? And because I didn't knew any cinematographers in the world. So, and I really mean that still, I think you have to follow your heart.
Right.
And it's like, and I really think still that you have to follow your heart. And I think that's a good thing for all new students. So I went out of that interview and I feel really bad, of course, because I was failing. It was a big fail.
Did you have fashion photographers that you admired at the time?
No. I didn't know too much about stuff like that. I was more like, going low and slow and It's just interesting to make pictures. So a month later, I got a letter from the film school. Welcome to the film school. You don't need to go into any tests or anything like that. I was, of course, in totally panic because I was coming into this pretty high-scale school because a lot of people are waking up when they're 3 years old and want to be a cinematographer.
Sure.
And I didn't do that. But then I have 3.5 years on the film school, and it was the best thing in the world because I think film school is good to be educated because you can do all your mistakes in the world. You're doing that with a group of people you really like and trust.
Sure.
And everybody's pushing each other to the limits. And then I came out from the film school when I was 25. And I came out in June, I think, and I shot my first feature film in July. So that was like right on. And
so, okay, I got to ask you.
I've done that since.
So you come right out of film school. Now, when you were in film school, did you learn all about coverage and going from a wide shot to a medium shot? Were you shooting short films? And were you watching films in film school? And
of course, the film school was amazing because, we were 6 directors and 6 sounds people and 3 cinematographers.
Wow.
And the 2 other cinematographers was 10 years older than me. And those guys have been dreaming about making feature films their whole life.
Right.
But, I was so open-minded because I didn't know the difference between a feature film and a documentary. So for me, it was like just making cool stories and, try to tell a story. But of course, we learned all that coverage. But when I came out in 79, you're listening, 79, that's right. There was a lot of rules about, you cannot do that. And if you have to do a close-up, 2 close-ups, they have to be exactly the same and the height of the camera. All this old stuff, I was very much against that but I didn't have power to change that those days, So when I shot my first feature, the editor was giving me a lot of heat because, no, you have the close-up have to be like that. Right. And I said, because it was the way it was in the old days, there were so many rules about how you do it. And then I shot my first feature when I was 25, and that was a blast. It was so fun. It was a super small, low budget, not low budget because all movies those days was more or less the same size. Are you okay?
Yeah, no, I was going to ask you. So you're shooting your first film, you're out of film school. I would imagine like you're bringing something new. Like I don't want to shoot things the way you're telling me to shoot them.
Yeah, but it's difficult on a feature film because there's a lot of money. Of course, I tried to change the lighting. I was going a little bit the same way I'm doing now, like single source lighting from one side and dark shadows, and that had been my taste, more or less my whole life.
Right.
But I don't remember I was changing, because I'm a cinematographer. I'm not a director. A director and cinematographer is working together about the coverage, especially in Europe. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what was it like working with the director, and how did you start to collaborate? How did you work with the director of a film?
Those days, we was just jumping into it because I read the screenplay and it was like, it was straightforward, this, and those days, covers was very simple because you didn't have too many money, you didn't have too much film stock. We shot a 35 millimeter, of course, like everybody did. But film stock was a big deal those days, and I think that's still the same on movies in Europe. So you have to be very clever about your coverage and how to do it, because you have the budget is limits. You have 8 or 10 hours to shoot. I think it was 8 hours every day, including lighting. And the crew was super small. Everything was tiny a little bit, but
Right.
it was fine. The camera team was me and a focus puller. There was 2 people on the crew. I was operating and DPing, and it was wonderful. But then when I'm doing movie now with Guillermo, of course, or whoever chat, that's another world. And of course, the way I'm working into a movie now is I know the directors, so
Right,
it's
sure.
not like, and especially Frankenstein, Guillermo, and we have talked about Frankenstein for some years. He's told me he's going to do it. He would love to do it, and then it's coming closer and closer. So I read the book, and I really loved the book. And I read it again, and it was very fascinating about the book. The book is amazing. And then I got the screenplay from Guillermo, and I was like, oh my God, this is like fantastic. And I should not be surprised because I know him. So
Right, sure.
the way he's changing the story and the screenplay is just amazing.
Well, what I found so amazing about, it's funny, before we did this interview, I went back and I rewatched Crimson Peak because I'd only seen it once. And as I was telling you, they've re-released a new transfer of it. You can get it. It is the colors in all the work you've done with Guillermo, and to a certain extent with the work you've done on the John Wick franchise. Color and contrast are unbelievable. Like every single shot of Crimson Peak should be on a museum wall somewhere. I mean, the color and when you're starting, like, it's really interesting to hear, since we're talking mostly about Frankenstein, but when I love the fact to hear when you went back and reread Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, did you see that book as you were reading it in color? Could you see things that you wanted to do in your own mind? Like if you're going to set up a shot, like what color should this room look like? Because what you do with color is extraordinary. And I wonder, do you think that way? Like when you're reading a book, does it come into your mind, and are you envisioning this and figuring out ways you're going to create these looks?
No, I'm not. When I read the book, I read the story, because I knew there was going to be a feature film with Guillermo. And when I'm reading a screenplay, that's another world. And of course, it's a very long process, because the beauty of that, the way he's working, is that he's making a kind of a color palette for not for each scene, but from each person, more or less, as a guideline for all head of departments. So we're not starting from scratch.
Right.
And again, Guillermo and me are going back from 1997 or whatever it is we did Mimic. And, you can say the color palette is going all the way back there, because we was using steel blue and we was using amber.
Yeah.
And when we did Crimson Peak, that was the first film we did after 15 years or 10 years. We have a break for 10 or 15 years after Crimson Peak. But it's just, we really like those rich colors. And it's just a matter of taste, for how you like the green and how you like the amber and stuff like. And of course, because we have the same feeling about light and color, so it's much easier for us to talk about the atmosphere in the movies. And this one, we were moving the camera more than we did normally. Shape of Water, everything was designed very, very specific. And Nightmare Alley was a little bit the same, but this one, a lot of the shot is starting big wide shots and then coming into a close-up in the same take.
Right.
And there was, of course, all that is Guillermo's design. Of course, we're talking about how to approve it, but what camera equipment we should do. And on this one, we decided to go a large format from the beginning. We wanted to go large format, full sensor, and shooting everything very wide angle. So the widest lens we have on our set, that like Talia lenses, is a 24 millimeter.
Wow.
And that works really well because it's a big sensor. But I think we shot 90% of the movie on that lens.
Really? On a 24 millimeter lens?
Yeah. But it's not it's not so wide because the sensor is so big. It's a little
Right.
difficult to explain, but the sensor is so huge. It's like shooting 70 millimeters in the old days. The focus length is getting much longer, but because the sensor is so huge, so you see more. But when you're coming into a close-up, it's not distorting. It works pretty well.
Yeah. So is that a prime lens? Is that a 24 millimeter
Yeah.
prime?
Prime. We are only using prime lenses.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I'm a huge fan of the look of primes. So when you sit down with a script or you sit down with your director like Guillermo, what is your process? Once you have the script, you know the movie's getting made. Are you looking at storyboards? Do you go through the script and make notes yourself? Like, how do you start your process in terms of, for you personally?
For me personally, I'm talking to the director, of course. And, I'm listening to the director because I'm coming in open-minded, because most of the times the director have been working on that project, his movie or his movie, for like years. So for me, it's like, I want to listen to what the director thinks and feels about the screen, about the scenes, and how he or she wants to shoot it. And then from there, we're just talking about maybe that should be like that. And then you're going into location scouting, all these kind of things where you change the look again, because when you see a location, when the production designer Tamara is building the sets, we have a lot of discussions about colors, the dimension of the set, where should the windows be, so we can make some nice lighting and right lighting, because we like this dramatic lighting and we like to have all the lights outside the set. So it's everybody's talking together about that, but it's coming from Guillermo's vision.
Sure.
So it is pretty straightforward, because he's so precise about what he's thinking and meaning. And of course, everybody's bringing something to the table to make it stronger or better. And because we have this very long relationship, it's like coming back home. It's not like it's the first time you're talking about, we don't like that and that and that, because we like the same. We like to move the camera. We like single source lighting. We like the drama of the camera movement and the lights. But of course, I have a lot of questions, a lot of suggestions, and that's changing all the time. It's not like we are making the whole movie, look at the whole movie from the beginning. We have an overview of the movie, but then we talk about from scene to scene and from location or built. Then we're changing a little bit. Should this be a sunrise or should it be overcast? And it's a process. So sometimes in the screenplays it's overcast, and I said, should it not be sunrise because it looks cooler,
right?
Or it's better for the story, or then we're changing that.
So is he open to, like, when you say it looks cooler, does he say yes, let's do that? He's very open
sometimes
to that?
he said yes, and sometimes he said no. So it's a yes or no.
One of the interesting things about this film is you have the story told from two different perspectives. You've got Dr. Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, and really great way to tell the story. When you were developing that and you found out that was the way it was going to be done, or you've been talking about it for a long period of time, did you want to shoot each side of that story in a different way? Or no,
we didn't. We talked about that a little bit, but we never did that. Of course, we have this, like, the red color is very strong with the mother. That was the only time we really used red light. Or that was the same with the costumes. Everything was red with the mom.
Right.
But otherwise, we shot the movie with the same kind of feeling, the same kind of lights, and the same kind of atmosphere, because we thought about, it would be too weird if it was changing, so we didn't do that. And I think it was much better as we have done. We never talked about it should be two different worlds.
Sure. Now, like you're talking about shooting with a 24 millimeter lens and a large sensor, now that we have and more where people are shooting for IMAX, VistaVision is coming back. I mean, one battle after another's VistaVision, and it's wild to see this happening. And you've been there watching from the time you came out of film school. You've gone through the process of having photochemical film replaced now with digital capture technology.
Yeah.
And I think, some of the people that have done it best are what you've done with Guillermo del Toro. I mean, you've really pushed the boundaries of color and shadow. How did that transition affect your process? And how do you feel about all the technology today and how it's continuing to get better?
I was so much against digital in the beginning. I was like, this is not working. It looks bad. I hate it. Why we're not staying on film? I was so much like a old guy, and I was really against it. I didn't like it. Why we're not shooting on film? Film is much more organic. But, every cinematographer that have been through the business for film for many years, we can tell a million stories about the lab that didn't work, all this kind of failures, and it looks of course cool, but I think I was very much against digital. When it started, Red came out and Arri made another camera, whatever it was, I was like, this is bad. So I didn't do that for a while, and then I did one movie, I don't remember what it was, and I was like, this is maybe okay. And then I think we shot Crimson Peak.
Right.
Digital. And that was like the Alexa TL or whatever. It's a straightforward Alexa.
Yeah, it was 10 years ago. So.
Yeah, exactly. So we did of course a lot of tests on that. And again, it looks pretty nice. And I think digital, because everybody, you can shoot on film, and I'm not against it. I love film because I've done like maybe 40 feature films on film or whatever. But you're coming into a digital world again because you're doing telecine, you're doing all the post-digital. And again, people can do whatever they like as long as they're happy. I think there's nothing right and wrong anymore, and I love that. I think it's so cool. If you want to go film and you like it, just do it. But we decide, and we have talked about it a lot of times, Guillermo and me, should we go film again? But Guillermo loves this digital because he's editing all the time, so he got his dailies right away.
Right, sure.
And he likes, everything for us when we're shooting digital works so well. And I think Alexa 65, last format, it is really good. And again, it's not film, it's digital, it's just another thing.
Right, sure.
But it's still a movie. I'm just saying, because what I think was happening was everybody was saying, it's shot on film and then they start to shoot it digital. And then said, it doesn't look like film. No, it looks like digital. And I think that's the reason what we are doing. We're shooting with diffusion filter inside the camera as well to break up the skin tones but keep the black. And we're using a lot of atmosphere. And so I think the digital media is if you treat that the way you like it, again, you cannot say right because there's nothing right and wrong, but it's just the way we like it. It's fantastic. And when we have done a movie like Frankenstein or Crimson Peak or whatever, I'm proud of Frankenstein. It looks fantastic.
Oh, it's and if you see it in a theater, a lot of people are obviously going to see it on Netflix, but seeing it in a theater is unbelievable.
Yeah, thank you. But so there's nothing. It's a good process, and it works really well, and I like it.
Did it change, like when you shot Crimson Peak? One of the astonishing things about that movie is just the quality of the color. I don't really have a vocabulary to describe it, but the color you were able to generate. One of the problems, obviously, with digital in the early days was reds and blues and keeping them stable. Obviously, when you go back and you watch TV from the 70s or something, or watching soap operas, reds and blues, even old VHS tapes, it couldn't handle that. And there's so many vibrant reds and blues in Crimson Peak and all the work that you've done with Guillermo. I mean, color is just, in a way, I don't think anyone else's movies look like when you guys collaborate. There's just something about the colors you get. Is this your style? Do you have a secret sauce? What is it you do?
I have a secret source. I cannot tell you. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think because I'm growing up with film, and when you shot on film, of course when you're shooting on film, your exposure has to be right on.
Right.
And that is when you're born with that. The exposure is the most important thing to have a good result, because I've always loved pitch black. The black has to be black.
Yeah.
And that's when you have that, you have to have the exposure correct. And I think that's a little bit the same actually on digital. If you are not controlling your exposure correctly, you have problems with the color. And a lot of people, if you're not right on, the color is drifting. Especially, I feel that with steel blue, as we are using a lot, if that is getting a little bit overexposed, it's just getting like milky. So
right.
You have to have and I think that's one of the keys. You have to be aware of your exposure. And I don't know. And again, keep the black. Don't be afraid of the darkness and negative fill. Just like make as much negative fill you can.
Well, and you did that really well also on the John Wick franchise. Yeah. I mean, the way that with the dark suits, and like I remember watching John Wick Chapter 2 when he's going in, he's infiltrating that big chateau and going through like the caves and having the gunfire. I was like, these blacks look incredible. Like it was just, this is amazing. And
but that's again the exposure, because you don't. Again, I'm not afraid of the darkness. It's the black has to be black. And again, if you have the director that have the same opinion, you're not going to lift it up in post, because you can do that.
Right.
And if somebody somewhere is getting nervous about something and you just start to lift it up, you have a problem.
Now that's a great question. Do you participate, like when you go in? Are you color timing? Are you there when you're grading your film?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Because that's, and again, I'm working together with very clever directors. So they're supporting me and they're supporting their own movie, and we in the same boat. We want to, Guillermo and me, we totally agree about how it should look.
Oh, obviously, because the film show.
And yeah, and we are our dailies when you shoot in digital. We have the DRT to make our connections with color stuff.
Yeah. Do you have like your own LUT? Do you create? Is there like the Dan LUT that you have?
No, we don't make a lot. I don't do that. I'm treating it a little bit more like it was shooting on film.
Right. Okay.
So every day is a new scene. Of course, I have the same opinion and style and taste. So I'm just saturating the colors and crashing the blacks, but I'm not making a lot.
Okay.
And it works really well for us.
Well, now you were talking about how you like real true black, but also the contrast that you're getting out of the black with the color in scenes. I mean, there's no one else who's shooting movies that look like what you two are doing together. You guys have really created a beautiful, like I would watch anything that you guys shoot. I don't care what it is, just because it looks, I mean, between Nightmare Alley, Shape of Water, Crimson Peak, this movie, it's just like, it's so gorgeous. Both the contrast between the black and the color. Do you treat color the same way that you treat blacks? Like you said, you want real blacks. Like, how do you get that? Like when you're in the scene where the amphibian's being kept in Shape of Water with the water rippling off the reflections of the water rippling. I mean, it's unbelievable. It looks like you're looking at like a graphic novel or a painting in some French chateau from the 1700s. I mean, I can't even, like how long does that take?
It's not take, of course, Frankenstein is a big movie, and we shot for 100 days, 110 days, or whatever it was. But again, we are super busy every day. You're super busy. So it's not like you're just sitting and smoke cigarettes and have a glass of wine.
No. You're not working French hours.
Exactly. The machine is rolling. And that's a part of that is pre-lighting and preparation.
Right.
I'm a big fan of pre-lighting.
Do you do a lot of tests? Like, do you do tests?
We do some tests in the beginning of the movie, but otherwise not.
Now,
so pre-lighting is important because that's where everybody sees the sets. You know, the production designer Tamara, she knows, of course, you have designed the set, but she have never seen it with light on. And
right.
you know, the beauty and the power of light is, you know, when you're pointing a light to an area, you see it. If you don't do it, you don't see it. And it's like, and that is the way we are lighting. You know, we are lighting, or my mom lighting. All the light is outside the sets. We never lights inside the set. So all the lights is outside the windows, you know, big lights out there. And of course, the windows, and then that means like it's a little bit like a gobo. You know, you're painting with light because if there's a corner, if you're doing a sunset scene and there's a corner that's too dark, for example, we just put a light there. And it's not, we are not doing a documentary. We're doing a drama.
Right.
So as I think it was Alfred Hitchcock that said, you know, nobody's questioning mark where the light is coming from.
Right.
Because, you know, as long as it works.
Exactly.
And that is what we try to do. We try to tell the story with light as well, and try to light the sets and the costumes and the faces so it works into the story. And that is like a little bit old-fashioned light.
Sure.
Because we are pointing the lights where it should hit. It's not like a wall of light coming in.
Right.
Super soft insides. And again, there's nothing right and wrong. This is just the way we like it. We like to have the shape of light.
Well, there's a style. The two of you have created a style together that you can see evolving through the work that you've done. And I would ask, like, how do you, early on, you brought up Tamara Deverell, the production designer, and then there's Kate Hawley, the costume designer, and Mike Hill, who did Creatures. How do you work with them? Do you work with them in pre-production? Are you guys collaborating in terms of light, like, and the quality of fabric of costumes? How do you interface with other department heads?
No, as I think Guillermo said, that's something, you know, there's not department heads, like we are making the movie together, because the production design and the cinematography is like blending in, and that's the same with the costumes and the sets and the costumes and the light, you know. Again, as I said before, everything is changing with light and the color of the light. That's the reason Guillermo is very aware of all that, you know. We, of course, everybody's talking about how to do it, but Guillermo is very aware of his design of everything. And of course, you know, when we're seeing Kate's costume rehearsals, and, you know, we talk about, is that green too much? So the same with Tamara, is what is the wall? Is the floor too dark or too bright? We're very much into that discussion with everybody. And of course, that's the beauty of movie making. It's like we are a group of people that are making a movie for Guillermo, with Guillermo. And it's fantastic, because I'm not, of course, I'm a cinematographer, but a lot of people are helping me. I'm not there alone, but that's the same with the production design. You know, we are talking about it. She's designing the sets, of course, but we are just talking about what should that wall be a little bit darker, or should it be a little bit brighter? You know, we are painting the windows down because I know there's going to be a lot of light coming through the windows. So if you paint the windows white, it's just going to burn out. So we paint them gray, because then it looks white, and all these kind of tricks. And that's just a discussion about the look of the movie. But that's coming very much from Guillermo, because he has this movie in his head much better than anybody else.
Now, when you are shooting something like, do you approach a movie like, well, the 3 John Wick movies you shot, do you approach them differently than you approach the work you do with Guillermo?
Yeah, I think so, because when I did John Wick 2, chats have seen, I think you have seen the trailer for Crimson Peak that was just coming out.
Right.
And he likes colors, and he likes colors.
Right.
So he called me, and I have no clue about what John Wick was. I have no clue.
You didn't see the first one?
No, I didn't see the first one. And I was in Copenhagen, and somebody called me about a meeting in New York, and I have to find John Wick #1. It's like it was, so I saw that, of course, and then we talked about how it should look, but Chad was so much falling in love with the look of Crimson Peak, and it should not look like Crimson Peak, of course, but it was just the color palette, because for him, I think it was important to have it like a kind of a happy movie, happy action, but very dramatic.
Yes, and you did that.
Yeah, and you know, then you do number 3, and that has to be more crazy and more fantastic than number 2. And then we did number 4, and that was like, now we have to go full LSD or whatever. So, but of course, the problem with color is, you know, you have to stay on the red line.
Right.
Because, you know, it can be cheesy very easily, especially because we are doing it so much. But again, it's no discussion why is the light green, because it's just the way it is.
Right.
We don't have to go in and tell. It's not a documentary; it's a drama, and that's the same with. Of course, it's a little bit less colorful.
Well, when you do a John Wick film, are you using? Do you still go with the prime lenses? I mean, those fixed focal lengths, or are you using more zooms? And were those
I'm never carrying zooms.
Never carrying zooms. Never. No, I love to hear you say that.
And you know,
what about anamorphics?
John Wick is anamorphic.
Yeah. And how do you feel about anamorphic lenses? Because less depth of field.
Yeah, but I think it's very interesting because we did a lot of tests on that. If you're shooting large format Alexa 65 with Leica lenses, Charlie lenses, and you're doing a test with anamorphic lenses on Super 35, the depth of field is exactly the same.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, because I was 100% sure it was different, but it's not.
Wow, okay.
Of course, it depends on your T-stop and all that, but if you're shooting more or less the same T-stop, it's just this distortion is, of course, another thing on anamorphic, and I love anamorphic, but it's just, that's again, every time Guillermo and me are going to make a movie, say, oh, maybe we should go anamorphic. And Guillermo said, yeah, let's try that. And then 2 weeks later, it's not going to happen. So we are always shooting American widescreen.
Right, okay.
185.
185, yeah.
But it's funny, the depth of field is the same because the sensor is so much bigger.
Interesting.
So the depth of field is falling off faster.
Well, now, in the John Wick movies, what I love about what you do with those is when you're shooting at night, for instance, or there's a lot of it. I love the nighttime look because you also, like with Guillermo, but it's less colorful, but there's still lots of color in the John Wick movies in the dark. Like when lights are, you have practical lights in sets, or you're at a party sequence, or it's really bright when he's going through that hall of mirrors in 3. You know, you know, when you are, I don't know, because Guillermo's movies with you don't look the same as the John Wick movies. You've created a style. How do you do that? Like, how do you differentiate between a Guillermo movie or a John Wick movie? What do you do? Is it conscious?
It's two, yeah, of course. It's 2 different directors. It's 2 different stories. And I don't think you could, of course, I'm the same cinematographer, but, you know, I can just do one style. It's not totally another style because I like the color and like the contrast with the light. But I think this story and the locations is so much different. So, you know, and again, Guillermo, when we're shooting with Guillermo, we're shooting one camera set up, and it's moving all the time. When I'm shooting with John Wick and Chad, it's 2 cameras all the time. You know, one is wide and one is much longer. So, and we are never using long lenses with Guillermo. Because we like to be wide angle. We want to be in there.
Yeah, yeah.
So on John Wick, it's much more like wide angles and long lenses. So it's a little bit different storytelling, and it's much more cutty. Anything, you know, but where Guillermo is like, it's much more one movement, and then it's always moving. Guillermo's cameras, you know, always, whatever we are doing, the camera's always moving. We are always on a crane or a Steadicam or a hot head. We're always shooting on remote heads.
Is that harder for you? Is it harder? No.
You know, it's just the way it is. You know, it's It's more difficult because, again, I said we're starting on a big wide shot in a scene. We are coming behind, some actors are coming into the scene, and we are tracking behind them on a crane, on 45-foot techno crane or whatever.
Right.
And we are coming into a close-up in the end. So the big wide shot have to look fantastic, but the close-up have to look gorgeous. It's sometimes a little bit tricky because we're not changing any lights. It's just because it's the same scene, it's the same shot. But it's just, you know where the actor is going to be, and you're going to light them from there. It's a little bit more tricky, of course, but it's fantastic. I love it.
Do you have, looking back at your work, do you have favorite scenes? Like in Frankenstein, do you have a favorite scene in that movie that you just think is if somebody said, Dan, what's the best scene in Frankenstein to look at? What are you most proud of? Because that film is so gorgeous to look at.
It's hard to take one scene out, but I think when Frankenstein is making his baby, I think that scene is fantastic because, starting in sunset, we're dimming the light down, and he's running up to his friend coming down again, and the storm is coming in, and then he's making the whole creation of the creature. I think that's very, very beautiful. And first time Mia see the monster in the holding cell, the costumes there is amazing, the set is fantastic, and the whole performance is so beautiful. But I think there's a lot. It's hard to take one because I think there's so many strong scenes in that movie. But
yeah,
that scene is very beautiful because it's the beginning of a love story between those two.
What was the most difficult scene to shoot in Frankenstein? Was there a scene that was particularly hard?
I think there's a couple of scenes. The one where he's making his baby or making the creature, that was difficult because there was so much going on. And I have a little bit difficulty to figure out in my brain, how should I do that? Because so much going on. And we just decide to take the smoke away and use steam instead, because steam is getting much more powerful and it's getting much more organic.
Okay.
So and of course that helps a lot for the dynamic in the scenes, and then the lighting strikes because the lighting is coming, and we're using old-fashioned lighting strikes. And in the beginning, when I read the screenplay and we talked about that scene, I was a little bit, so how do I do the transmission from sunset to like everything is going crazy?
Yeah.
And you just have to sit down and try to think about it and talk to Guillermo about it. But that scene was complicated for me in the beginning, but when we shot it, it was okay.
Sure.
But and the scene with Mia when she's coming down to see the creature first time, the problem there was we like to have a little bit smoke in that set, and if all the walls are very white, so all the light is coming through those small holes. So we designed that hole. We spent a lot of time to figure out how deep the ceiling should be there, because all the light is coming through those holes. It's one direct light and there's 4 like indirect lights. So it works really well, I think. But there was a lot of hard work with my gaffer Mike there to figure out how we should do that.
Sure. Well, it certainly turned out well. Now you've also, with his collaborations now between something like Shape of Water, you're shooting inhuman creatures. You're shooting makeup effects characters, and you're dealing with whether it's latex or something like that. And yet, like with Shape of Water, you're shooting a monster, an amphibious creature, but you still have to love that creature. So
yes.
Is there a way do you have a different technique to shoot the inhuman? Like obviously when you shoot a woman, you know how you're going to light a beautiful woman's face, but what's the secret to shooting a creature effectively? Whether it's Frankenstein.
First of all, the creature is made of Mike and Guillermo. So, it's made so good. So you don't have to treat them too two different. You know, it is like you have another cast member there. You have a
Real okay,
and you should not be afraid. You know, some people, you know, you can have like, we spend so many money on this thing, so we want to see it.
right?
And I did that mistake for many years ago when I did a movie called The Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yeah, and can we just talk about that? That movie's great.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic film.
But there was a creature there. There was
the werewolf, the wolf.
Yeah, and they spent so many money to make that, so they want to see it. And I think that was a big mistake. So I learned that, because don't overlight that. You know.
No, I mean that was.
Have to. Oh, excuse me. We have, when you're talking about Shape of Water and Frankenstein, you just have to treat those actors, that character, like the rest of the movie. You want to make it movie. Don't be afraid of the darkness. And I think that is the key. Mike is making that stuff so good, so it's easy to shoot it.
Well, that used to be a problem. I worked a little bit in special makeup effects back in the 90s. And I remember when the great makeup effects artist Stan Winston, he directed his first film, Pumpkinhead. And he had created he created the monster. He knew how to light it. You know, the makeup effects guys knew how to light their stuff so the latex didn't look like latex. And so often directors overlit that material, you know, and they wouldn't look convincing. And I understand what you mean, but I love Brotherhood of the Wolf. That movie kicks ass. But,
no, it's a fantastic movie.
But I know what you mean about the creature. You have to show less of it in editorial to sell that it's real.
And you just, again, don't be afraid of the darkness, because the darkness is power.
Right. That's what Gordon Willis would say, you know, the old, you know, the Prince of Darkness, they would call him.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it's so, like, it's really interesting to me that you have this contrast between, I mean, both the John Wick franchise and Guillermo's movies, because they are very different in terms of their looks. And like you said, you're shooting everything with two cameras. And I love the fact that Guillermo shoots with one camera, because that means everything is so, when you're shooting with one camera, is there a discipline that happens? Like, you really have to be, as opposed to having two cameras, you can always cut away if you have to. But during the production of it, is there a difference between shooting with multiple cameras or a single camera?
Of course, when you're shooting with more than one camera, you know, you have to be true to the light, because, you know, you still have to keep this. And I think that is the goal. You have to keep the second camera as atmospheric as the A camera. You have to sneak it in with this profile, a silhouette, or, you know, because you have to be true about the light.
Sure.
You know, you have to do that so that we are not shooting a bad shot on John Wick. If the light doesn't work, we're not shooting it.
Well, okay.
But when you're shooting with a camera, with one camera, you know, the light is perfect for that angle. It's lit for this one angle.
Right, of course. So it's more controlled.
You know, it's much more controlled. But on the other hand, if you're just doing long lens, but it's just, Guillermo doesn't want to cut. That's the way he wants to tell the story.
Sure.
So, you know, he's not cutting away to something, because then we just do it again if it doesn't work. He's of course, he's covering the scenes, but he's not making a cut away. That's the same. We are never doing inserts with Guillermo, you know, because the camera is coming down to something and coming up again. It's just, the insert is a part of the scene.
Right.
So it's not an insert. It's like, it's a part of the storytelling. It's not like a cut into a close-up of a hand or whatever.
Sure.
And you see when the creature is getting shot down from the ship, and we are craning down and we see the hand moving a little bit, you know, that's the insert, but it's not an insert, because it's just like a big wide shot.
Right.
And you're booming down to a big close-up, but you have the ship in the back. Other people just cut to that hands. But the way Guillermo does is like we are coming from a big crane shot and coming into a close-up, and the hand is. It's so cool. So we are never making inserts.
Wow, that's really interesting. I mean, going from big wide shot, that must be a lot more fun for you.
No, it's just storytelling. It's great. It's cinema.
I love to hear you say that.
That's what I like.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And when you're working, I mean, when you're in the middle of the movie with Guillermo, and say you've been shooting for 50 of those 100 days, do you ever stop and like just have a lunch together? Do you ever sit down and talk about, okay, well, here we are. Does he ever want to change things up, or as you're making movies, do you guys have ideas that you throw them back and forth, and do things change ever radically? Like, I've got a totally different idea how to shoot this scene. Do you ever do anything like that?
We have that now and then. We have some scenes, but we're together all the time. It's like we are married. But that's the same with all directors. You are married for 6-8 months, and that's the way it should be, because you're making a movie, and but that's the same when I'm doing John Wick with Chad. We're together all the time.
Right.
But there is some scenes now and then where we change. This is night in the screenplay. We're scouting it for night. We're scouting for night. We're prepping for night. And then there was one scene I wake up and said, this is wrong. It has to be day.
How'd that go over?
No, of course, a lot of discussions about, but not with Guillermo, a lot of practical, how are we going to do that? And I spoke to Guillermo and he said, yes, of course, you're right. It should be day. And so we changed it to day, but there was a little bit of, I will not say it was panic, but there was a big move because we have to do it the next day or whatever it was.
Right, sure.
But again, we are so organized and so preparation for everything. But so if something come in and we want to change it to something better, it's the way it should be. You cannot say, no, we have talked about this, have to be like that. But if we're getting a better idea, we're going to do that.
Right.
And because for Guillermo, and that's the same, most of the directors, I work with, like, they just want to do the best they can do. 100%, they want to fight for the movie to the end. And I think that's the beauty of movie making with those people. There's only one way, that's the best way.
Sure, absolutely.
And that's for everybody. Everybody that's working on those movies, Guillermo's movies, like the whole crew, all head of departments, everybody wants to do the best we can do. Because we are working for Guillermo and we are working for the movie, and that is the beauty of it. Mm. It's not like I'm doing the cinematography, I don't care about the rest, because of course I care about everything, because that is a movie. And when people are doing a really fantastic job, it's just lifting everybody up.
Right.
And that is what Guillermo is a master in. He just wants to have the best from everybody, and we are giving him as much as we can. And that's the same for all head of departments. The whole crew is. A lot of the people we are working with on, they've been on Mimic. A lot of people was coming from Mimic. Being on all his movies, even the movies I didn't shot, the crew have still been there.
Sure.
So it's for him it's like a big family. So that is fantastic.
There's something else that we haven't talked about that that you did that I particularly loved. The movie The Gorge.
Yes.
When you get down, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but
no.
When you get down into the gorge, and you're in that world, man, that was incredible. That had a look. I mean, I was gonna just want to ask you as an aside. I mean, I really love that movie. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Thanks.
But that weird
a lot of color again. I don't know why I want to do black and white.
I was gonna say again. There's a little bit of I noticed. I felt a little Guillermo, like the way they use color, but you were really able to create the otherworldliness of that environment was really cool. And was those scenes difficult to get the way you wanted them? Because that was something else that you don't see much. That looked like a lot of it was practical, and it was really
a lot
amazing.
Of practical, but a very heavy CGI movie.
Yeah, it was
very heavy, and there was Scott Derrick. Scott really likes to have this color palette again. But that was maybe because you have seen some of Guillermo. I don't know, but we just from the beginning it was like, I want to have this purple, I want to have that blue, I want to have that red. Yeah. And of course, and that is really, really cool. But it's just the transmission from one red scene to a purple scene. We have some problems, color problems there, because it's so much light they have to change colors,
Right. Yeah.
The saturation have to change as well. So there was a little bit of practicality there. But it was cool. It was so cool to do that, because it looks nice and it was scary. And
yeah, it looked great. I mean, but there was a little. I thought that there was a little bit of Guillermo's. That
for sure.
The colors were, but it looked great because again, it was like nothing you'd ever really seen before. And having those sets were great. I know there was a lot of CG, but there were times you could tell it was practical.
Of course. And I'm a big fan of practical. I like to do as much as you can practical. Of course, you cannot make the gods practical, but as much you can build, I think that's the best for the movie. And that's the same on Frankenstein. We built the ship, on the parking lot in Toronto. That was a real ship standing there, 300 feet long, and on a gimbal. But it's just giving a lot of real. It feels real.
Yeah, it totally feels real.
And that's the same, the torches on the ship, people was talking to me about, that have to be LED torches because it's too dangerous with live action torches. And I was fighting, it have to be real, because when the wind is changing,
everything
is getting organic, and it's so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It looks really cool. It looks so good.
Well, it's amazing. Now, looking back on Frankenstein, what's it like for you when you go back and you see a finished version of the movie? You see it done. Do you feel like it's a job well done, or do you feel like, oh, I wish I could go back and change that? Or do you feel completely fulfilled when you finish a giant project like Frankenstein?
Oh, it's hard to tell, but of course I'm very, very proud of the movie, and of course there's always something, and I think it should be like that. There's always something I want to do better, but not difference, but just I could have a little bit something there, but very, very little, because I'm very, very pleased about the look. It's a very good looking movie.
Oh,
and I love the story. For me, it's a story about love and forgiveness, and I think that's so beautiful. For me, it's not a horror movie at all.
No, but all the great horror it's full of pathos and human emotion.
Yeah.
And the postmodern Prometheus, the Mary Shelley novel, and all of that. I mean, all of Guillermo's movies, especially in things like Shape of Water, he humanizes the inhuman. And that's what makes his movies, I think, so resonant. From the first movie I saw of his was Kronos.
Remember Kronos? It was so good. That was the first movie, of course. So good.
So good. And everything. Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth. I mean, he loves his monsters, and he loves making his monsters human.
Yes, well, and he loves his actors, and he loves his story. That's clearly.
Oh.
And he loves his movie. And that's what I mean. That's bringing everybody in, because he's so delicate. About this is what I want to do. So everybody's coming in there.
Well, we've been talking. I can't believe we've been talking for an hour, and I want to thank you. It's amazing. It seemed like it's 2 minutes, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, for people that are watching this show now, with all the technology, people are carrying 4K cameras around in their phones. Could you offer any advice for the next generation of cinematographers, people that are just starting up now, that they've come of age in a world that's drenched in digital technology? What advice might you give to somebody who's looking into starting into the world of cinematography?
I think, as I said myself for so many years ago, you have to follow your heart. You have to find your own way into the world, because there's so many ways to do everything, and there's nothing right and there's nothing wrong. But I think a lot of people are overletting right now. There's too much light everywhere. And I think if you can... But that's only my taste, but you asked my
Yeah, no, I love that. There's too much. That's a great quote.
Yeah, there's too much light everywhere. And keep the light away. It's just, if you can. And again, negative film is your best friend as a cinematographer.
Negative
because
film.
That makes the atmosphere. So that is, again, make a lot of tests. If you're doing, make as much as you can.
Sure.
Every day, just rehearse, and because everybody's making mistakes all the time. I'm doing that all the time as well. But I'm just saying, the more you do that, I think the better you get. And that is like, I think you have to be obsessed about making pictures, movies, because it's just, that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any kind of movie you haven't made that you would like to make? If someone said, hey, you can make your dream project that you have yet to work on, what might that be?
That should be I'm Cuba #2.
Really? I Am Cuba #2.
No, I don't. That's not #2, but I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm
so you'd
Cuba
like to do a movie like I Am Cuba?
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Wow.
I think it's a masterpiece of a movie.
Yeah, it is a masterpiece of a movie. That's what a cool thing to say.
Yeah, no.
That was a very unexpected answer.
Yeah, but I just think it's the way it's shot, the story, the way everything is like, and again, super wide angle and in there. That's a movie I really think is fantastic. I love those kind of, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Course, and it could be fun, but I don't think it's possible to do it. But that's another thing.
Well, something like that,
Yeah, for sure, something like that.
Well, Dan, this has been, first of all, I cannot thank you enough for your time. What a fantastic, I could talk to you for hours. This was amazing. Congratulations on Frankenstein. What an amazing piece of work it is. Your whole team and Guillermo and everybody that worked on the film did a wonderful job. Really, to create that kind of a world, unbelievable. And if you can, I would tell everyone to see it in the theater. So,
yes, for sure.
Thank you very much for being on the Designing Hollywood show again.
Be here. It was great.
Yeah, it was so much fun to talk to you, and I'm sure we'll see you at the Oscars.
Oh my God! Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't say that, but come on.
Okay.
It looks so good. Well, Dan,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thanks for being on the Designing Hollywood show. A special thank you to founder and executive producer Martika Ibarra, co-founder, costume designer, the legendary Marilyn Vance, and of course, John Campea from the John Campea Show. Thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tune in to the audio version wherever you listen to podcasts. I am, of course, your host, Robert Meyer Burnett, and you can find me on Instagram at rmburnett, or find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or on YouTube at PostGeekSingularity. Thanks very much. Like, subscribe, and give us your comments. What would you like to see on the channel? Right down below. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Designing Hollywood.